Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to the SAP Enable Now Knowledge Transfer session today. Topic is how to debug Enable Now from a consulting perspective. Therefore, we have four guest speakers talking to us today from our development support team. Let's talk about who's doing what in a second. Before, as always, if you don't want your name, your face, your questions, or whatever private information being visible to others, please disconnect now, since this meeting will be recorded and saved. All right, let's get started. As mentioned, it won't be me talking a lot today. It will be the support folks. Good one. Then you know the people behind the names you are talking to when you have support issues and tickets and everything. So our session today will have at least 5 segments, maybe a fifth. Let's see how much time we got left. Maybe I'm talking about recognition debugging a bit at the end, but let's see, the other 4 are more important. Web assistant debugging was the main requested one. This is why we put it as first. You are all still fresh and can check the input. This will be presented by Manas. The support folks will introduce themselves one by one as soon as their session starts. Second is authentication via SAML, so any cloud single sign-on debugging options presented by Mircea. All the on-premise debugging options will be presented by Renato, and the third-party integration debugging solution manager, all SCOM-related things, debugging, ARIS connectivity, etc., will be done by Thomas. After, we're going to have, as always, plenty of time and room for your questions. You can unmute yourself at any time and jump in. If something is unclear, too fast, too slow, whatever. We're gonna have a dedicated Q&A slot of 5 up to 10 minutes after each slot that are dedicated to the current topic, and then we have an overall Q&A at the very end of the session. All right, so modalities are clear. We all have fresh coffee, I believe, at least. Otherwise, call Caroline, she's in the coffee shop right now. So let's get started. I'm gonna shut up now, and the stage is yours, Manas.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mahnaz, and I do the development support for Web Assistant located in Berlin. So what I tried to do for this session, just an overview of what I'm going to talk about, what to do if the help icon is not shown, what options you can check. The next thing, I'm going to talk about the most common errors that you can find in the developer tools. And then at the end, the SOML authentication in iframe. And in case you go through all this and you don't find the issue, I'm going to tell you what information we need from you so that we can process the incident faster. So the first thing is the most common, I don't see the help icon, what do I do? The first thing is checking the configuration that the customer has done. And our good friend Web Assistant Integration Guide is the guide that has all the information that you need for the configuration. I want to show you just quickly how it looks like and what parts it has. So as you can see, we have different sections for different products, S/4HANA on-prem, cloud, success factors. So everything you need based on the product that you have, you can find here. And what's also important is that we have different scenarios. So the configuration would be different. We have the standard content scenario, which means the content is only from SAP. Extended scenario means that they have the content from SAP, but also they have their own customized content. And the last one, the custom scenario, means that there's no content by SAP, only the customer's content. And like I said, based on the scenario that they have, the configuration can be different. And you see also these different sections here. Okay, and what I've brought here is the common issues that we see on the S/4HANA on-prem. we see some issues in the configuration. And here you see the catalog parameters. What is the catalog? It's Fury catalog, and that is where customers do the configuration for Web Assistant. What kind of configuration, for example? So let's just have a quick look here. So for example, you have product, version, and other parameters. So these are the parameters that we need for Web Assistant. So here, what can usually happen is that in the extensibility scenario, you have to use the data URL WPB2. Most common happens that the 2 is missing at the end. And for the custom scenario, what happens is that they might have the 2. So these two parameters are confused very often. So it's very important in general to check all the configuration that is listed in the integration guide, but this is something that happens very often, you see here. And the next thing is for success factors is the format of the URL to their manager. So if they're cloud customer, of course, this is the format. And then if they're on-prem, it can be a little bit different. Make sure that at the end of the URL here, there's no space, then that can cause issues. Web Assistant will not work. And also make sure that you are careful with the case sensitive. So here you see, for example, some letters are capital and some letters are small. So in the same symptom, when the icon is not shown, the next thing we want to check is Web Assistant even loaded in the application? And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, let's take this application. Developer tools is very important. So how do you bring it up? You either go to the settings, more tools, and developer tools, or the shortcut is that you use F12. And this is the developer tools. And I would refresh my application, clear this, and get all the new calls. Okay. And we don't even need to open this. So what we want to check here is, I want to see if Web Assistant is loaded even, and what to look for. Here in the filter, you can type catalog, and here you see the results. So you know that, okay, then the files are loaded. And what is this catalog actually, this catalog call? You see two of them. We're looking for the one that has the get method. So you see here, for example, it's calling the SAP content server, which is help.sap.com. And what is this call actually? So we request specific content. We say, give us the content with this product, this version, this is the screen ID, and so on. So if you have this call, you know that Web Assistant is loaded.
A little comment in between. Guys, catalog is catalog, and it's like templates in Enable now, fully overloaded term. There's two catalogs in place. One is the configuration data object in S4. That was the other catalog. It's just randomly called catalog. It could be called Peter as well. And this catalog is the context request for Web Assistant. Fully different things, randomly or by the chance named the same. Yeah, don't get this wrong. This is totally different things. They just are both called catalog by the chance.
Good point, Mike. Thank you. So that's one thing to check, the catalog call. The other thing you can also check is multi-file. These two are both mentioned in the slides you will see. And multi-file is nothing really different. It's just that you will see everything all together here in the preview section. You can see what the response is. And here you see, okay, for this call to the manager, this is the response that I'm getting back. So if you have either of them, then you can be sure that Web Assistant files are loaded. So you know that this is not the issue. But let's say in the case that you filter for one of these two and you don't find anything, what to do next? In the S/4HANA on-prem scenario, the other catalog, which is the Fury catalog, you have to make sure that the customer has created. And I also want to make a point here that usually the customer administration or whoever takes care of the configuration knows a lot, has a lot of knowledge about the catalogs, Fury catalogs, how to create them, creating roles and all that. So they know a lot. And once you say, hey, let's check the Fury catalog, they would know how to bring it on. So the first thing to check if the files are not there is have they created a Fury catalog? If so, then you want to check if a role has been created and if the role is referenced to the catalog. If the second one is also done, that's good. The last thing is that the user that they have, it should be assigned to that role. And more explanation about these 3 points, you find them again in the Web Assistant integration guide. In the success factor scenario, if you don't find the files, there's a good chance that they have not done the configuration. So you see here on the right side, you have to check if a Web Assistant is on and if the parameters and all the settings has been filled in. If they have not done that, then you don't see any calls to the Web Assistant. The next thing is...
Let me just add one line to this.
Sure.
Web Assistant settings in SuccessFactors, there is the standard content switch and the extended switch. Not in that screenshot, maybe we add that later. Take care that this is meant as an either or. If you activate both, the first scenario will win and the second scenario will still be inactive even if it is configured. That could be also something that you have to keep in mind. If something is weird and you only see the SAP standard stuff, but you know that you configured everything properly. If both are active in the last section, that might lead to issues, just because we had that yesterday.
And also one thing in SuccessFactors, we don't have content from SAP. We have the learning app, of course, but we don't have any content coming from the content server help.sap.com.
One question?
Yeah.
The Web Assistant is still not available for SuccessFactors Learning, right?
It's not available for the learning? What do you mean?
Or
no, in learning, no. The new UI is in place now. To be honest, our consulting trials that we are using, they are still running on 1905. As soon as they are updated, I can give you a valid information whether it's accessible or not. But the old Flash UI is gone, the new UI is in, but I haven't seen any scenario with the new learning UI where Web Assistant would work fluently. So based on what we know, yes, it's not available yet.
So there would also show no question mark.
Yeah, or it would be crippled somehow. Yeah, so I will put that on the What's New agenda for the next What's New session anyway, because this is an intense discussion that we have to have, because this user interface technology is totally different from the others. And until then, I will have a valid answer. For now, if the customer did not update yet and did not change the UI setting from old to new, it's Flash anyway. So yes, no chance. And for the new one, I would be very careful and try first. Yeah? And I will provide a valid information and how-tos in the next What's New.
Cool. But that's just learning, which is different.
Only
right?
learning, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. And the last thing to check if the help icon is not available is that probably you might know that by default Web Assistant icon is hidden if for the page that you are in there's no content available. And in that case, you need to just turn on the edit mode, because in edit mode, you always see the help icon. And let's just have a look at that. Okay, here I'm in the home page. I can see the icon, fine. But if we will have a look in the calibration app, then you see that the question mark is not shown. So in this case, we want to turn on the edit mode, and we use this URL parameter. You have to just be careful that the URL parameter you add is always between this last question mark that you see, and if there's any hash at the end, it should be between these two. So in this case, we don't have any hash. Now I just say and I add the URL parameter and to enable the edit mode.
And take care that you have to have author permissions. Otherwise, even activating edit mode won't lead to anything. Yeah, so just test this naked without any permission on the target server. This will not change anything neither.
So as you see, we will have the icon, but of course, when you click on it, there's no content available. So that can happen that if the question mark is not shown, just make sure that maybe there's no content for this page available. Okay, and then we move on to the next symptom. So like I said, I will talk about 3 common errors that you might see, and this is one of them. Just Mike talked about the permission. So if the 403 error that you might see, and I have reproduced this. So I have a user here. It has the learner role, and once I try to, let's say, click on edit mode, then I will see this call. You see it red. So when you see these red calls, then you know that it's failing. There's something wrong with them. And here you see the status code 403. The call to the manager is here. And in this case, if you go to the response tab, then it tells you what is wrong exactly. It says missing permission. So it can be either, like you said in my case, they don't have any author role, or it can be also that they don't have the permission to the specific work area that we're. So here, for example, this is the work area. This is the URL to manager /WA, and this is the work area. It can be that the user does not have any permission to access this work area. So you want to check both. Okay. Because the next 2 errors that I want to talk about are very common in the S/4HANA on-prem scenario. And in that scenario, we have Web Dispatcher in place. I want to just tell you very shortly what Web Dispatcher is. So like I said, first of all, it's only in the S/4HANA on-prem that we use Web Dispatcher. And it's basically a reverse proxy. What does it mean? It means that every call that comes from the client side has to go through Web Dispatcher, and then that Web Dispatcher is basically redirects it to different servers. And for our Web Assistant scenario, it redirects to the application, which is the S/4HANA, the Web Assistant server, and then the SAP content where you load the content from. So it's important that the client in this scenario does not access the S/4HANA directly, but it goes through Web Dispatcher. So, and if you want to know a little bit more about Web Dispatcher, you can definitely check this link. But I think this is enough to know that Web Dispatcher is in place in the middle between the client and the server. Okay, the first common thing is that you see the error 503 for a call which has the component JS. So I showed you how to filter in the developer tools. So what you can do, I mean, maybe you scroll in the calls and you already see that, oh, it's red, let me check. But you can also always filter for DFA. When I've also made it bold here. Whenever you have DFA, you know that you have Web Dispatcher in place. So if you have this call with component JS at the end, and you see that you're getting 503, then you know something is wrong with the Web Dispatcher. And then you ask the customer to give you the trace file of Web Dispatcher, or maybe you can check with them together. And there are some common errors that you can find in the trace file. One is that it says it failed to verify the peer certificate. Then you have to delete the certificate, import it again. And what is important here is that we need the root certificate. So if you have, let's say, 1, 2, 3, like a hierarchy, we need the root, which is the first one. And that's what we need to import. The next common thing is that you see it says the connection to either cp.hana or xray.hana has failed. In this case, the web dispatcher is probably not connected to the internet. And, or it might be that to connect to the internet, they need to access proxy. And if that's the case, then they have to define that proxy in the configuration file of web dispatcher. And this is again explained in the Web Assistant integration guide, but I've just also brought an example here. The next thing which might be the issue in this case is also that they have not imported the certificate, or the certificate is not the root certificate. The last one is the very most recent one, is receive the fatal TLS handshake. So SAP has stopped supporting TLS version before 1.2 because of the security issues that it has. And what they need to do is basically add another parameter, which is explained in this note, add another parameter to their configuration so that they're using the version 1.2.
Just
okay.
One sentence here. This happens regularly right now. Yeah, so take care of that one. The TLS support is one thing that really kicks us hard right now, and it's always the same. Yeah, so this should probably be right now, because of the current situation, the one to check first.
Yes. The next thing also related to web dispatcher, you see for the same call, DFA component.js, that's how you can figure out that it's web dispatcher. So the next thing is, instead of 503, you see 404. And this is the case that I told you that the customer should not access the application directly. If they get 404, it means that they're not going through web dispatcher. Instead, they're accessing the application directly. So they don't use the correct URL. That's what it means. So as an example, to make it more clear, let's say this is the normal URL they have to open their Fury application, their Fury Launchpad. And this is the URL that they use to open their web dispatcher. So the server name and the port. In this case, when we have web dispatcher in place, we do not use this URL. Instead, we take the server name and port of web dispatcher here, and then we just add whatever comes after the port number here. So whatever comes for the Fury URL, we just add it at the end. And that basically what it does is that it makes sure that we access the Fury Launchpad through web dispatcher. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is if the SAML authentication is failing in the iframe. So some identity providers do not allow us to do the authentication in the iframe. In that case, starting from enable now 1911, so that's important, this is the minimum version, we can have this parameter new Windows SAML, they can add this to their configuration, and then the authentication will not happen in the iframe, instead in a new tab. And the next thing might be that, okay, we're using this parameter, but the authentication is still happening in the iframe. In this case, it could be browser settings. So make sure that block third-party cookies are disabled. And how you can find this option in the browser, this is explained in this SAP note. You can find out.
At that point, just one more sentence from my end. The third-party cookie blocking won't be possible to do manually in most cases. That's part of the zone policy or any administrational security layer, either the Microsoft zone policy or the master preferences file for the edge-based browsers, whatever. So most likely you can for sure check whether this is set, but you won't be able to modify it in the customer scenario. Yeah, and you will have to talk to the owner of that security layer, of the zone policy, or those master preferences files for the browsers. Just take care. This is nothing you can most likely influence. This will be something that the customer administrator will have to influence for you. And the ask now is to identify the issue. This particular one probably won't be fixable by yourself.
Yeah, and also to add on top of that, since a few last updates in the Chrome, you also have this option in incognito that you can turn it on and off. So sometimes if you're testing in incognito version, just make sure that this is not enabled here.
Just one more question regarding the new window SAML. Had a discussion with Mircea and a few clients who are not using the same IIS for the Fiori as for and even now manager, because it's either on premise and they don't have an IIS for their Fiori because it's on site, or because it's two different ones. Do you have experience if this new Windows SAML solves these kind of authentication issues?
In my experience, when they had the issue in iframe, I could not find out that there's a specific scenario that it works or it doesn't, but maybe Mircea has had more experience with that. But at least I haven't had that.
Yeah, Caroline, it's fixing this, but
Okay.
only if the customer is adding the Fiori, let's say, to the local Internet Explorer zone. So in that case, the Fiori will be able to open a new window and to close the new window. If you do this in SuccessFactors will be usually it's in cloud, and in that case, SuccessFactors will not allow it. So the group policy will not allow it. So for SuccessFactors, the customers they added SuccessFactors as well in the local intranet zone, and it was working. Otherwise, they had that pop-up there, like you have in the right corner in Chrome, a pop-up which is saying pop-up was blocked, and that's it. Or it's doing the authentication in an iframe and you have the error.
Okay,
So yeah, additional configuration, and usually they don't want to update the group policy with that, but what you can do, because this scenario with new Windows SAML parameter, usually it's for the QA environments. It's not for production. For production, usually they have a proper configuration. So for the QA, the workaround is to open first the manager URL, and after that open the SuccessFactors or Fiori URL. And like this, you have already the authentication to the manager.
So that's just for the authors.
Just for the authors, but yeah, this is QA system. I assume that it's a QA system. So in that case, you should have no issues. But yeah, if you have customers with production, with this scenario, please let us know and we can help. Depends each customer, the infrastructure, because if they're using Okta IDP, in that case will work. Depends on the identity provider that they are using. This is the first thing, and the configuration that they have. That's the second thing. So each customer will have a different scenario. In Okta, for example, and Azure as well, as far as I know, you have a landing page. So you first, the end user is connecting to the portal, can be Okta or Azure, and there you have some applications like enable now, Fiori, and so on. And by default, you do the authentication to that portal. That SAML token will stay like 8 hours in the cache. So whatever you are clicking in that portal can be enabled now, Fiori or SuccessFactors. The authentication is already done. So that's why each customer will have a different scenario. So the best is to let us know.
Okay, but the first thing would be to put both Fiori and SuccessFactors into the local intranet.
Yes, yes. The first one, the one which is opening the new tab, the target system, let's say, not enable now. Enable now can be in trusted sites, but the one which is opening the authentication, that one needs to be in local intranet. In the most probably the customers with the S4 on-prem, it's already in the local intranet. So in that case, should work by default. because will be for them it's in hack usually installed and local intranet for them. But with success factors will be not the case. Will be just in trusted sites.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and that basically sums it up. And the last thing is if you don't find the issue and you want to hand it over to the development support, there are these things that have been very helpful to have. First is the information, what application it is that the customer has, and then the HTTPS trace file. I will show you quickly how to create it. The next thing, if in case they have the on-prem scenario, the web dispatcher trace and configuration files, and at the end also screenshots of the web assistant configuration. So in SuccessFactors, for example, it's in the web assistant settings page. In on-prem scenario, this is the Fury catalog we talked about. So based on the scenario, based on the product, we would like to have the web assistant configuration. And how to get the HTTPS trace also. So these are the calls basically that the customer should basically reload the page, make sure that the page is completely loaded. Then anywhere here you right click and then save all as HAR with content. And you save that and you just attach that to the incident. And yeah, that's it. And if you have questions, please let us know.
So thank you very much, Manas. Good one. Any questions for the concrete topic? Silence in the room. So let's proceed then. We do the next topic and then we do our break. So forwarding to who's next?
It's me.
Mircea. All right.
Yes, I will share my screen. Okay. Let me share the entire screen. Okay. So I will make this, how to hide this one here. Okay. So now we will discuss about how to debug the Enable Now SSO Cloud Edition. As you know, all the customers should have the single sign-on enabled for the Cloud Edition in order to use the web assistant. And that's why we have sometimes a lot of issues with them. So the most issues that we have are with the customers that the users can connect to Enable Now, but they have no properties on the user level, like first name, last name, and email. After that, another common issue that they have is that the single sign-on was configured properly some time ago, can be 1 year ago, and in one day it's not working anymore. And another one, which is almost very common, is that after they enable the single sign-on with our help or without our help, they can the users, they have for example some local users, and they want to override the local users to the single sign-on user to remain with all the properties of the local user, like roles and learning and so on. So yeah, these are the issues that I want to discuss with you. I will start first of all with the installation of the add-on, the SAML add-on in Chrome and in Firefox. So if one customer is saying that, yeah, we have issues with the users, that we have no attributes and we have only the username coming, and after that you want to see what is going on there. The first thing what you need to do is to install a SAML add-on on the customer computer, or if you have access to their infrastructure, on your computer. So the best is to go in the Chrome or Firefox. And I will show you how this is working. So for example, I have one user here. It's my test user that has no, 1 second, my session expired. Sorry for, second. Yeah. So this user has no first name, last name, and email. As you can see here, if I'm going to settings, I don't have any last name, first name, or email address. What you need to do, you need to connect again. So what I will do, I will show you directly in an incognito window. After you install the SAML add-on, you can see it here. And I'm going to the incognito mode. Now I'm doing the authentication to Azure with IIS tenant as a proxy. Okay. And I will show you the SAML trace and what is the issue there. So now I need to put this one. Okay. Oh, yes. Now it's going to through the IIS tenant and now to the target application. This is a standard scenario that the customer has and the one that we recommend. Now, once that you have the SAML add-on installed, you can install any SAML add-on that you want. I prefer this one, but you can use another one as well. Here you can see exactly what all the SAML trace that we have. And the last one usually is the one that WPB POC, which is in our case the IIS tenant, is sending to the Enable Now manager. You can see here the target, which is the destination, and the issuer will be the WPB POC, which is the IIS tenant. So what you need to do, you just need to scroll down, down, and here in the SAML trace, you will see first of all the name ID. The name ID will be my username in Enable Now Manager. And after that, if you scroll more down, you will see the attributes which Azure is sending. So you can see here display name, which we are not using, identity provider we are not using, and so on. What we will use this one, giver name, which will be our first name, and we will use the surname, which is the last name, and email address. So these are the attributes that we need to do the mapping. So you as a consultant, you need to copy these attributes and send it to us via a ticket and say, okay, the customer has this issue, like the first name, last name, and email is not populated. This is the SAML trace. You can send us the entire SAML trace if you want, but this is enough for this issue. And what we will do with this, we will just do a mapping on the cloud platform level, which you don't have access, but we and operations have access. I will just quickly show you. And here, because I made not to work, so I will do the mapping. So whatever the customer is sending, we will need to have first name, last name, and email here on the second row. Now, if I'm saving this, and I'm going back to this one. I'm just logging out. The authentication is still there for 30 minutes. So I will just say alternative single sign-on account. Now, as you can see, because I have the right mappings, my first name, last name, and email is there. And everything was done based on the SAML trace that you can see here. It's the last one. Just scroll down and you will see what is sent.
So maybe to summarize
Any
this,
questions? Yeah.
this is the most common one, right? So the mapping was done wrong,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
the sending
Yes.
attributes were changed by the customer without telling us. We
Yes.
have that with global
Of course.
players from time to time, like in every 2 months.
Yes.
So take care here. The SAML trace is actually the mapping table between what is sent and where it's mapped to. That happens at the back end. So I believe that was pretty much clear. And yeah, you can consider this as the number one issue regarding authentication, basically.
Just a
Yes.
question. When the
Sure.
So I assume during the initial setup, you're having your checklist anyway when you're setting up the single sign-on. So this is mostly when they change the attributes later on. And does it delete? So if they change the attributes and the mapping doesn't work anymore, does it keep? Do we keep in our database what we initially received?
Yes.
Or does
Yeah.
it delete?
Yes. Yes. So no, we will keep. We are not changing if the attribute it's empty. We are not changing the attribute. We are just changing the roles. For example, if they do a different role mapping and we are not receiving any SAML role via the attribute that we expect, the SAML role will be removed. But the first name, last name, and email will be not removed. But for the new users, when they want to create new users, they will have no attribute there. And common is that, yeah, the old users, they have the first name, last name, email, and the new ones that we create, we have nothing inside. We have only the username. This is very, very, very common. Because what is the reason for this is that we have IS tenant as a proxy for enable now. And usually we configure the SSO for enable now first. And after that, they want to configure the SSO for, let's say, S4 or for SuccessFactors or Ariba. In that case, the colleagues from these products are changing the settings in the IS tenant without letting us know, because Ariba or SuccessFactors, they need to do the provisioning of the users in IS tenant in order to work. So in that case, the IS tenant will not act as a proxy anymore, but will act more like a federated middleware. So what we will do in that case, we need to have additional attributes that needs to be sent only for enable now manager. So that's why we need to have the SAML trace. That's the reason why this is very common, because we enable the single sign-on on enable now, and after that, the other colleagues are coming and modify the data settings.
And roles, like corporate groups, when those are
Yes.
sent and they're empty, they're removed.
Yes. Yes. The corporate groups are removed.
Okay.
And this will
From
lead
that
to an
user, of
immediate
course.
logout in that case. Yeah, so if they change the send attributes name for the corporate groups, for what reason ever, you will end up with no permissions at all at that moment in time. So and the only user that most likely will work after this failure will be the super admin user, which with the hard-coded password.
Okay.
Yes. But usually, from experience, they are not modifying the corporate groups. The groups are not affected, usually. But the rest, yes. Because these groups, nobody is using in SuccessFactors or Ariba or, I don't know, Fiori. They are not using this attribute at all. It's only used by us. So from this point of view, we are more or less safe. But can be another issue with the corporate groups that we had with Mike, if you remember, with one customer, that they changed the way that they are sending the corporate groups. They were sending in one way. So Mike made all the assignments and the permissions on the manager based on the groups that they had in that moment. And after that, we changed the IIS tenant and they send it in a different way from the same IDP, identity provider. So the old groups were not accessible anymore, and we had new groups. So, and the new groups had no permissions at all. So yeah, you need to be very careful with this.
Okay.
The SAML trace is yeah the most important thing in these cases. When you have issues with the attributes, SAML trace is the most important one. And sometimes in the SAML trace, you will not see what you see here. Like you see clearly each attribute, what is sent. ADFS, for example, it's you have the option to encrypt the attributes. So if you are not seeing anything here and everything is encrypted, what you need to do, you need to ask the customer to decrypt the attributes just for testing, and after that they can enable the encryption again. Because sometimes it's like that. ADFS, at least for Azure, is not encrypted, but ADFS and some others is encrypted by default. So for a test, you can ask the customer to disable the encryption, just make the SAML trace, send it to us, and after that, you can enable the encryption back.
Oh, but the encryption itself is not an issue for us if the mapping is done.
No, for us it's not an issue, but we need to know what exactly the customer is sending. With encryption, we cannot see it. We can resolve it on the cloud platform level, but for us to debug, we cannot see it because the encryption is not there. Another, any questions for this, or we can continue? Because this is the most common one. No, okay. And the second common issue that we have is that single sign-on was working just fine for, I don't know, 1 year or so. And after that, in one day, everyone is coming to the office and the single sign-on is not working anymore. The customer is saying that we didn't touch any configuration. If you ask the Enable Now team, we will say as well, we didn't touch because we don't touch the customer environments if everything is working fine. And but still the SSO is not working anymore. So in this case, what you need to do, it's again to do a SAML trace. And this time you need to not stay on the last SAML response, but if you go one in front, not one, but two. 1 second, here. So when you have the destination is the IIS tenant and the issuer is the identity provider. This is the answer from the identity provider. So in this case, what you can do, you can easily go down and here you will have X509 certificate. Okay, what you can do just to double check the certificate, you can just easily copy this certificate. Let me just go like this. Copy this certificate because this is the certificate which Azure, in my case, it's using right now. And you just come on your desktop and create a new text file. Doesn't matter the name in the beginning at least. Now you paste the text that you copied from the SAML trace. Click on save. Now rename this new text document to new text document certificate.text sir or whatever you want. The extension is the important one. So this one should be sir from certificate. And you just go like this and double click on it. And here you can see when and what information about the certificate. So this is the certificate from Microsoft Azure, Federated SSO certificate, and is valid from 13th of May 2019 to 13th of May 2022. in the customer case, if the the valid time from beginning will be like, I don't know, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, means that the certificate is new. If it's like 2 months ago, in that case, it's fine, but I doubt that will be the case. So when you have a new certificate, you will have the from valid from like 1 or 2 days before, from the moment when the single sign-on was not working. So if today is 25th of September, usually the customers have the valid time from 23rd or 24th of September 2020. So you see that Azure is sending a new certificate, and what you need to do in that case is to ask the customer to go to their to IIS tenant if they have an IIS tenant, and do a certificate update there. So the first thing, they need to go to IIS tenant. After that, they need to go to the corporate to identity providers, corporate identity providers, and import the new certificate there. If they don't have an IIS tenant, in that case, they will need to come to create a ticket for us and to assign to send us the new metadata of the identity provider, or to attach the certificate how they prefer. This is one reason why the SSO was working, and after that is not working. The first thing what you need to check is the certificate of the identity provider. You can check this via SAML trace, or you can just ask the customer to go and ask the identity provider team if they change something on the SAML provider or not. And usually this is the case. Most of identity providers are changing the certificate once per year. Sometimes you can change the certificate once that you create a new application. Sometimes the security of the customer is saying to change the certificate every 6 months. So here each customer will have a different security settings. Okay, any questions for this? No?
Yeah, you
Okay.
said when
Yeah, okay.
sometimes the customer doesn't have an IIS. Is that this new configuration when they have an ADFS that they can connect straight away to the cloud platform? Is that a common scenario?
Yes, some customers, they don't want to use IIS because they're saying that they are not using the web assistant. And in that case, IIS is not mandatory required. If they have ADFS or Azure, it's not mandatory. If you want to have a web assistant, yes, it is mandatory. Otherwise, you can just, if you have only enable now manager, you can connect directly with the IDP. It's working as well. And in that case, the customer, they need to send us via ticket the new metadata from ADFS or whatever identity provider they have.
Okay. Is that a common setup?
No. It's not. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we have around 10, maybe 15 customers like that. From, I don't know, 700. So no, it's not common. But sometimes they insist not to use IIS tenant because for them it's another software that they need to take care and they don't want. So, yeah.
But at least they can do their certificates themselves and then don't depend on tickets.
Yes, if they have IIS tenant, they can import very easily the new metadata there. And usually when we do the SSO configuration, we are telling them that when the certificate is, will expire, just come here and do the replacement. But yeah, he talked with one customer now, and after 1 year is maybe someone else. So
Yeah.
yeah, depends.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No problem. Another one, which can be the reason for the same issue, that SSO was configured properly and it was working before and now it's not working, is that one administrator of Enable Now checked, updated the configuration in the Enable Now manager. So let me show you this one as well. So I can come here. 1 second. I will connect with the administrator. And I will just add a space because this is my favorite, let's say, way to do it, to show you. We had this with one customer that after the root, they added 1 space. And click save. Okay. Ah, now we are removing it. Ah, okay. Not working anymore. Okay. Modify. Okay, let me fix it. Root modified. Okay. Now, if I'm coming via single sign-on, so I will just log out from here, and I will try to log in again. Not anymore. Not working. The single sign-on is not working anymore. Why?
Hmm.
Because the customer modified this, and usually they put their company name there, not the root modify, whatever I'm putting here. So here can be one reason that they modify the root name. So this can be one reason. I can put it back. And now if I'm putting back and I'm coming here, now it's not working anymore. I need to refresh. This is one thing that you can test with them, to put it back to root. Now it's working again.
So
Another
basically,
thing
just
that
another
you can
sentence
check.
from my end. This
Yes,
is because OUs are considered as paths, right? Yeah, so it's not just distinct like
yes, exactly.
folders, it's
This
a
is,
path. And this is what you have to make clear
it's a
to the
path.
customer, that any change
Yes,
there could influence the complete authentication infrastructure, because this will change all of the paths and make them not match anymore.
exactly. So the path to that group imported users is here in the organizational unit for automatic user creation and role for automatic user creation. And you can see here that you have root. So right now I have root underscore mod. So if I'm just coming here like this, and I'm modifying the path to the role and the path to the organizational unit. And now I'm coming here again. Now will work. So here you need to be very careful to see that the path in the server settings to the OU, to the group where you want to import the users, and the path to the roles, which by default you have the learner role, but sometimes the customers are renaming the learners to something else. So in that case, the user cannot be created. You need to come here in the users and see the path, or you can come in the organizational units and see here as well. So if you want to modify the imported users, you can put it somewhere else. It's not a problem, but you need to go in server settings and modify the path there as well. If you want to have a custom role, when the user will be created, not with learners, but let's say you want to have it with company name, user, in that case, role, in that case, you need to modify here as well. Otherwise, it will not work. You will have an issue. So these are the two reasons why the SSO was working before, and after that it was not working anymore. Because sometimes the customers, they just say, okay, I don't want to have all the users imported SSO users, I don't want to have them in imported users like we have by default. And they want to have it in a different folder. So what they are doing, they are modifying not here, the imported users, but they are just coming here and they say, okay, we are just modifying the users to go not in imported users, but to go to the project name group. And of course, that group doesn't exist on the old structure, so we cannot create the user. So always check these settings in the server settings, plus in the organizational units, plus roles, because the roles as well. You go here, you will see the roles, the path to the roles. So you see system, and here you have the learners. If you are modifying the learners and put them in the imported users, when you want to create a user via SAML, automatic user creation via SAML, in that case will not work because the path to the role is not found. Just for you to know. Anything that you want to discuss about this? Any questions? Or is clear?
Seems clear.
Okay, I am very glad. And the last one, which is very annoying for the customer, but it's not a big issue for us. But for the customer, it is that they have, for example, when you start the project, and you as a consultant, you know that better than us, that you create a lot of local users just to show to the customer how this is working, the product, and maybe give them some trainings. So when you do this, our recommendation is to ask the customer, okay, when you enable the single sign-on, you want to keep these users or not? And if they say yes, we want to keep these users because they are master authors and they will do the content in the future. In that case, you ask them, okay, and in your company, what is your username by default? Is the email address or it's a SAM account, for example? In that case, they will say, let's say that it's the SAM account. So by in the beginning of the project, when you create the users, please use their SAM account as a username. And after that, ask them to give you the same attributes that they have in the first in the Active Directory for the first name, last name, and email. So like this, when we enable the single sign-on, we are overwriting the user with the new with the single sign-on information. But for example, you have a user, Caroline, which is, let's say, the SAM account for you. And after that, for the first name and last name and email, you put Caroline everywhere. And after that, the same user is coming from Active Directory, Caroline as a name ID, so will be correspondent to the username. But in the Active Directory, you don't have Caroline everywhere. So you have Caroline, after that last name, I cannot pronounce it, and email, right? And in that case, the local user will be not overwritten because the first name, last name, and email are not matching with the ones that are coming from single sign-on. So this is very important to match. And the complete match, it's perfect if you have 100% match of first name, last name, and email. This must be, we need to have the match on the case, is case sensitive as well. So if you have the email with capital letters in Active Directory, you need to have the email with capital letters in Enable Now Manager as well, on local user. Otherwise, will be not overwritten. And this is from a security standard that we need to implement like that. It's not because we want, but we must do it. Just to ensure that we are not overwritten, we are not overwriting any other user with the same information with a user that we don't want to. So it's very important to have 100% match there. The only not case sensitive is the name ID, which will be the username. So let's say in the Enable Now manager, you have the SAM account name with small letters, and from the Active Directory is coming with capital letters. In that case, for us, it's fine. So the username can be, is not case sensitive, so you can use any cases that you want. But the rest are case sensitive. And the mandatory one, just between us, is the email address. So the first name and last name can be empty, even in Active Directory. That one is fine, but email must be there. So if you have users without email addresses in Active Directory, they cannot be overwritten. They cannot overwrite the local users at all. Just for you to know.
Misha, just a silly question from my side.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So if there is no match 100% between the names that are in the SAML and Enable Now, but there's a match on the email address, what happens? Is it that they are not...
will overwrite it.
Oh, okay.
Will overwrite if the name ID is there and the email is matching, will overwrite it. But this, please don't say to customer. The best is to have all of them. That's the recommendation.
Right.
We are always saying 100%, but right now email is mandatory. But I don't know, maybe in 2 releases, the security will come and say, no, you need to match first name as well. And after that, we need to update on our side, so maybe it will not work. Right now, email is mandatory and name ID is mandatory. That's it.
Okay.
The rest are ignored. But the most important is that the customer has, the user has email address on the customer environment, on the Active Directory. Because there are a lot of external users which have no email address at all.
Okay.
So these users, you cannot create them before because they have empty email.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome. Anything else?
Just
Any
another
questions?
clarification. So if I create a local user, I did have the correct name ID, but I didn't enter the email address, then this will not be matched with the SAML import.
No. No, will be not matched.
Okay.
Or if the email, let's say you have it locally with capital letters and in Active Directory it's with small letters, will not match as well, even if it's there.
Okay. That's a common issue.
I know. I know it's very annoying for customers. And you need to tell them from beginning of the project that this, when you create the users manually, you need to have this in mind. Because if you do this from beginning, you will have no issues.
Can you add one sentence to that slide saying how to create local users, how to best create local users when you have to, because single sign-on is not created yet?
Okay, I can do that, of course.
Like use name ID from identity provider and add email address exactly the same as it is.
Okay, I will add it here, and after that I will send it to Mike.
In the super worst scenario, there are mapping capabilities, but that should be the last resort, because this really needs the involvement of basically everybody: operations, development, dev support, everybody. Yeah? So this will keep a lot of people busy. But if we are in the middle of something and we have tens of thousands of users in place and we have tracking data which is operational, and they have to change their primary identifiers for the users, there is a mapping capability which requires a flat file mapping table. So we have to have this 10,000 users mapped before and after in one file. If this is providable, a mapping is in theory possible, but this will cost a dime, right? Yeah, so this is possible,
yeah,
but it's a super complex thing to do.
Mike,
Sorry,
but
Metro?
this is only if you want to change. This is valid only if you want to change the username. Let's say right now they have email addresses as username, and you want to change it to the SAM account.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have no email address in the Active Directory, we cannot do anything.
Okay, that's another story. Right. Yeah.
You
sorry.
know, even that's another story. Yes, that's if you want to change, yes, that's correct. If you want to change, right now they have email address, and after they want to have some account, yeah, that's changeable, let's say. But if you don't have any email address in the Active Directory, in that case, you cannot import the users before. You can create the users via some login. Yes, that's fine. Will be learners, no issues, but you cannot create them before at all. Because sometimes you want to create a user, like for the project, you create the users before and give all the permissions before. And after that, when they are coming via SSO, they have already all the permissions in place and the roles as well. You do this via Excel, and after that, it's easy for the users. But if you have no email address, in that case, you cannot create them before the SAML authentication. There are two different things in this case. Okay.
Okie dokie.
Any more questions?
So anything around our holy grail, the SAML SSO. So it seems that
than I expected.
everything, that's fine. Everything is clear. Nevertheless, let's take a break, fresh coffee, bio break. 10 minutes. I will stop recording. As always, please remind me to resume it again. And we're gonna speak further in 10 minutes. Here you go.
Okay, so good morning again to everyone. I will approach some subjects about on-prem manager and the most common issues that we have and how to debug it. And then at the end, starting with the third-party integration, the solution manager integration, and the typical errors and issues that we have with it. And then Thomas will continue with the other subjects for the third-party integration. Okay, so let's start now. First thing is about understanding the logs that Enable Now manager produces. So every single action that we take on the Enable Now typically generates a line in the log files. Typically, the logs are located under the installation folder of Apache Tomcat that I will demonstrate right now. So if you check the installation folder of your Tomcat installation, you will find all the logs there. So we have two types of logs. We have a log file that is more or less a wrap-up of the logs with only the most important messages. And then we have a trace log file that is more detailed. By default, only one log is activated. And then we have the options to activate the other log. I will show you how you can do it. You just need to go to the server settings. Oh, wait, my session is lost now. Okay, on the server settings, if you search for the logging options, so you will find that we have the threshold for logging and the threshold for tracing. Tracing is the most detailed at log level. So to enable this option, we need to put in debug value here. So after saving, the systems will start generating a lot of more logs. So, and we can, most of the times, if you face any issue and you need to send us the logs, so you will find these two files, the -log file and the -trc file. And then it's probable that you see the date on the name of the file. This means that this log is from this day, and you will find at the end the .1, .2, .3. This means that every time the log file reaches 10 megabytes of size, the system creates a new one to not have one huge file. So if you search for the one that doesn't has this extension with the number, it means that this is the recent one. So depending then on the time that we want to investigate the issue, it's important to know which one is the best one. So I will start to show you the log file inside content. So this is a typical log file. It has a lot of information, but what you need to focus is always to find the message that is important. So this is organized by timeline. So on the top you will find the oldest date entry, and on the bottom you'll find the most recent entry. Okay. So you have info type of warnings registered here, but you can also have errors and you can also have warnings. Warnings and errors are the ones that normally means something. So these are the ones that you need to look for when something goes wrong. Let me show you just one. Okay, so for example, we see that somewhere in time there is an issue. So the right way to do this, to read the log file, is to start from the bottom and go up until you find a timestamp. So in this case, I will go up until here and see, okay, this is a warning message that a 500 error happened. So if the message is not important or it doesn't say that much to you, it means that you are not in the right place. So you should continue to go up until you find a message that really is meaningless, really has some meaning to you. Again, same time, but not that the message says something. So you should continue to go up and search for the right message. And then, okay, here we have a message that says something that we can work with. So there was an error, something related with LDAP error. So, and this is the way that you read it. If you have some other type of issues, like the upload of something failed or something like that, and here you only have an error saying that the upload failed, what you can do is to check the timestamp that you have here, and then you go to the trace log files. So if I search here the trace log files without a date and without an extension, this means that this is the trace file that is the most recent one. So in here, you have all the detailed log. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So here you have all the information, all the queries that are made in the database, all the connections that are open and closed, the time that it was processing. If you face a timeout, you also find here for sure that information. So, and this gives us a detailed view of what is happening in the system. Be careful to only activate this when you try to find a root cause for any issue. Don't leave this option activated all the time, because as you can see here, just for one day, and this is a test system, we don't use it that intensively, and only for yesterday there is 10 files, so 100 megabytes of logs generated. In a real customer with big work areas, a lot of users, using the system, it's easily that you generate maybe almost 1 GB of logs per day, and that's too much. So use it only when you need to debug something, and then you turn it off again. Okay, more information about this log and how to do it, you'll find it on our ACP nodes or ACP KVAs that we normally try to build to give you all the information. So everything that I said and explained, you can find here, okay? This is not important. Let me close this. Okay, so debugging, important stuff. Just to wrap up, 2 types of file debugs: log and trace debug. Trace debug has detail information. Log has summarized information about the logs. Jumping to the next subject, now let's see an LDAP or LDAP-S connection. The difference between these 2 protocols is that one runs on a secure channel. I put it here, the most common message that we found during this process, that or the system is not available to access the LDAP server to import the users, because maybe there is some firewall that blocked our URL from the manager, and you need to ask the customer to whitelist it on their firewall, antivirus, or whatever software they have to control the network traffic. This is one option. Or by mistake, we just put the wrong LDAP server address on the system. So let me just show you where you can do this. I'm not showing you or explaining how you do it, just to understand what you can expect. So this is a standard LDAP configuration that we are going to use. So imagine that I'm putting this information and I put the wrong password. Now that you know already where you can check this, if I go to the log file, it should be on the bottom of the file a message about my username and password wrong. Let's see. Again, you see that here is the message, authentication failed. So it means that probably I'm not using the right username and password. So if I do the right one, okay, it saves. The same thing if I failed with the server. So if I try to use a server that does not exist, let me close this, and I go to the log file, I will find that information also for sure. Okay, connection host failed, so the connection to the host is not available. It is also important because it may be possible that when you try to connect to a host that you are not reaching it, you don't know why you don't reach it. If it is a problem with the manager or if it is other problem. One thing that we normally use, it's one small tool called AD Explorer. I put it here. This is a very simple debug tool that you can download directly from Microsoft website. And let me just quick show you. It's very simple to work with. Here, I have it here installed. You just run it and you do more or less the same thing. You say which server do you want to connect to. In this case, I will make a mistake on purpose. Okay. In this case, server is not operational because it's not correct. It should be send dev1. Okay. In this case, it says clear the username and password is incorrect. So, and if I put it there, admin, it's misspelling, administrator. Okay. Once the credentials and the server are right, you can connect here and you can see the users. But the important thing is to test the connection. So if I'm in the server where the manager is running and I can use the this tool to connect, it must be also possible to use the manager to connect. Okay. So we were checking on the LDAP server, so unsecure connection. But our experience from the latest month working with customers tell us that everyone is changing to the secure connections. So the protocol now, it has a different name. So it should be LDAP-S protocol, and it should work with the same credentials, username, password, but it has one difference. If you want to use the LDAP-S, you need to import a certificate to the Java engine that runs with our application. I will not explain how to do it because there is also a SAP note that explains very well. I leave here the information, so you just need to ask the system administrator to give you the certificate from the domain controller, and then you can import it using this command line into the Java engine. What is very typical is that the customers are not aware of this. They just try to go on their server and okay, they change this to LDAP-S and then they try to connect and it's not working because it's not, the certificate is not in place. So when you see this message saying that unable to find a valid certification path to request target, this is a clear message saying that the certificate was not imported, or if it was imported, it was done in the wrong way. In this case, you just need to follow this SAP note. LDAP-S import with Kerberos didn't work, and you should be able to make it work after the import of the certificate. Again, all these messages come from the log file. So normally, all the information that you need to know what to do next, it's available there and very clear to you. Okay, keeping up with this user import, let's see now. After we are able to connect, we can import the users and then we can activate the single sign-on. The single sign-on for the on-prem scenarios for now is just available for using the Kerberos authentication protocol. We are working on a solution to enable the SAML authentication for the HANA on-premise system. It should be close, the solution. We are almost at the end of the implementation, so maybe there will be great news for the next weeks about this. But for now, only Kerberos is supported. So I will not explain how we do this, but I will show you. I'm not sure that everyone knows this small documentation that we built specifically for this, where we explain how the Kerberos ticketing system works and how you can configure the process. I will just briefly, sorry?
Sorry, that's a well-hidden beauty. I didn't know that part of InfoCenter myself neither. So
Okay.
This is a must-read, guys.
Yes, on this implementation. And for here, we our experience after we publish this and start sharing this with customers show us that the incidents related with Kerberos really decrease. So this means that they are following this and this is working good. But of course, there is always some kind of issues that from time to time appear. So the first slide just explained how the process of the ticketing works. how the manager asks for the ticket for authentication, where it goes, and how it works. Then we have the prerequisites that you should always ask to the customer to know which version they are running on the server level, to know that the URL is already whitelisted on the process, everything that you need to grant that are in place before starting the configuration. Then we have the creation of the GitHub file. We share with you some examples, but the most, I will say, our cherry on the top of the cake is that we built here a form that will give you the GitHub file, that because our experience showed us that most of the problems were on this generation of the file. So we built this small form where you can fill the values on this form, and we explain everything here on the left side on which means what does it means every field here, and then you generate, and it gives you the right command that you just need to give to the customer and ask them, please ask your system administrator to run this on the domain controller, and it will give you the GitHub file to proceed with the configuration. Then after that, we have also some recordings that shows how you should use and configure the system. And everything is explained here. And at the end, we also explain a little bit of troubleshooting. But I would say that the last slide is also one of the most important when we face any issue. So we put here all the, let's say, known message and the possible reasons for this message is coming. For example, if you see the message, no callback handler available to authentication information for the user, this probably means that the GitHub file was not uploaded during the process, or there is a wrong service principal name. Just a brief explanation. Service principal name is a name that points to the machine where the manager is running. So the Kerberos systems, we need a specific username to use it, and that username needs to have a service principal name that points to the machine where the manager is running. So, and many times this is one common mistake. The customers are using this name in the wrong way, and this can cause this error message. And then we have a lot of other message: client not found in Kerberos database, pre-authentication invalid, encryption. So almost every issues that you will find out, they are here mapped. And if customer says, okay, I have this issue, you just need to come here and check, okay, this is the message, this is the reason, solution. Let's check this and let's check that. Okay, now let's see how this works outside of the theory, goes in the hands-on. So imagine that we configured our Kerberos LDAP, everything is well configured. We import the users already, and then we try to use the single sign-on. So, sorry? Did someone say anything? No.
I heard something as well, but I believe it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
I believe it was Mitch.
Okay, so if I go here, oh wait, I copied the link here. Wait just a second. And if I try to access, so you saw that the configuration was done. I was able to save, I was able to select the user, I was able to import the users. Nevertheless, when you try to log in you still face a message. You cannot log in, okay? If we check the logs, and this is a very specific issue that I wanted to share with you. If I check the logs now, oh wait, I was using the import, so I need to do this again. Okay, now I get it. And if I check the logs now, without the import running anymore, I don't see any message here, okay? And this is a very typical issue that we also face. So everything, apparently is everything looking good. We are able to import, we're able to do everything, but then the single sign-on does not work. And this is one thing that you need to fix. Ask the customer to do the following. The customer needs to add our URL to the trusted websites, okay? And the second step is to change the authentication mode here to the authentication login with current username and password. And after these two configurations are made, if you refresh the page.
Sorry, can you show the second setting again?
Yes, of course. Maybe I was too fast. Let me repeat the process. I'm sorry. So the first one is to add the URL from the manager to the trusted websites. It must be here. The second option is on the custom level of the trusted websites. If you go until the end, you have this user authentication method. So the logon, we need to change it to automatic logon with current username and password. These must be in place for the single sign-on to work. Normally, what we found is that the user does not have the permissions to change this. So this is something that probably needs to be done by group policy. So you need to go to, if you are doing this troubleshooting and we are trying to change this setting and you see, okay, it's not possible. So you need to ask them, please go to your sysadmin and ask them to implement a group policy that change this value, and they can also add the site automatically to the trusted sites. And after that, the single sign-on should start working with any issue. Even though it's possible that it's not working, but in that, this is the only case that we found out that you don't see any message on the logs and it's not working. So if you change this configuration, it should start working. In other case, when you find that you're still receiving errors from the on the log side, you still see errors, you can try other things that I put it here. So the Kerberos system works on the ticketing system. So when the user tries to access the manager say, okay, I need a ticket saying that you are really you. And the system works behind, and the client machine goes to the domain controller asking for this ticket to prove that this user is who he say he is, and then pass this to the manager. So if for some reason you are not able to log in, you can check if the process is being used. So if you run the command canlist on the machine, you should find ticket that points to our manager server. So if you don't find a ticket that points to our manager server, so it means that something is wrong in the configuration. And probably this is related with the service principal name. Again, the service principal name is this link. So this link must be mapped on a user. You can check also if this is mapped on a user or not by just run the command set spn -l and then give the user that the customer gave you to use for the configuration. If you do this, and if you return the service principal name pointing to the machine where the manager is running, so it means that this is correct. So the configuration is well done. We get a ticket, the service principal name is in place, the single sign-on must work in this case. I share it here, this command, so you can use it yourself, but this is also explained in another note that we have that also explain what can we do to troubleshoot the single sign-on with Kerberos system for the on-prem scenarios. Okay. Last but not least, related with single sign-on, there is one fresh stuff that is coming now. We have already one customer with this issue, but we predict that a lot of more customers will come in the next weeks about this. It's related to Microsoft security implementation. You can find more information here that I also share with you. This Microsoft security implementation, what it does, it changes the way that the secure channel works. Until now, you could use the connection to the LDAP server using the secure connection, but the authentication was using what they call it a simple bind. So you just need username, password, and everything works good. But now they change this and they force a different type of bind. And on our on-prem systems, we are not supporting this. So if you see if the customers come to you and say, or if you are configuring this for the first time, and you are already receiving a message when you try to connect to the LDAP server, here, if you say that, okay, I want to use the LDAP S and I want to use Kerberos, and if I try to save, if I receive always a message, and if I check the log file, and if the message is like this, that I'm going to show you right now. Okay, if the message says LDAP error code 49, this means that the customer enabled the security option from Microsoft. And from this point on, the single sign-on will continue to work, but he will not be able to import the users or synchronize the users that he has already on the system. From this point on, the synchronization will not work anymore. Okay, this is something that probably will come with more customers in the next days or weeks, and we should be able to tell the customers we are working on it, but for now we do not support it. Last but not least, one of the most important stuff that I forgot, you need to activate the single sign-on to make it work, and you do it here on the administration server settings. So you need to activate single sign-on and single sign-on with Kerberos. Okay, since we are changing subject completely, the next subject is about solution manager integration. Maybe it's a good time for questions about debugging LDAP, LDAP-S, Kerberos. Go ahead, please, if you have any question.
I have a remark. I had 2 clients, I think now, where we seem to have configured everything correctly. And then like pulling our hair out because it wouldn't work. And then checking everything and the SBNs. And then the next morning it worked. And the IT person responsible said, well, that must have been because they use several domain controllers, and the synchronization happened at night.
Yeah.
And we were just unlucky to, when we tested it, not be on the domain controller that was configured. That's something you encounter as well?
Yes, and I can show you how do you know? For example, if here on the configuration, not this server, sorry, I will show you. On the configuration of the import, you define an LDAP server, right? But this does not mean then the system, when he's trying to get the ticket, that he will get the ticket from this server. It may happen that he is getting the ticket from other server. So you can check here on the ticket list. If you do this klist command, if you go on our ticket, you can see here the KDC call it. In this case, it's the same, but it may happen that the KDC is other server. And to avoid this issue, you can go back to the configuration and use the same server that the KDC reply. And in this case, you will be sure that you are connected to the same server that you import the users from. And you avoid this issue of this replication during the night or something that they can have.
And would you then set it back the next day to the main domain controller?
It depends, because there is customers that they don't want us to use they don't want us to use a domain controller. They want to use these load balancers that sometimes they have also. If for the customers there is no issue that we are pointing to another one, we just leave it there. If not, yes, in the other day you can point to the other one that the initial configuration was.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you.
Okay, nothing else? Okay,
I don't think so.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you very much, Renato. Oh no, that wasn't even the last one, sorry.
No, because this is belonging to the last subject of the webinar related with third-party integration. But this is one topic. Maybe I can start and then Thomas will catch from that point. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, totally complete different subject, but of course, again, related with debugging. Integration with Solution Manager. This is one thing that we also have a lot of customers coming, and we seen that there are more or less 3 issues that are 95% of the issues that we deal with Solution Manager integration. So one of them is related with wrong or inaccessible URL. Many times the customers don't give us the right URL for Solution Manager, or because the server is not right, or because there is some proxy in the middle that blocks the connection, or there is some wrong port they are giving us. So this is one issue. The other one is related with timeout, due to large structures. When the structure is too big, it may happen that we have a timeout while reading the JSON file from the Solution Manager side. And the other is authorizations issue. So again, we have everything very well documented, especially on this SAP note that has, let's say, a wrap-up of the principal issues related with timeout, performance issues, issues related with special codes, upload issues, URL issues. So everything is here. If you find a problem, probably you will find here the solution. But let me show you how can we work with this thing. So our, let's say, #1 tool to check these type of issues is our JavaScript console that we have here on our producer. So let me start to do a connection. I will connect to Solution Manager. First thing, let me put a wrong URL. Okay, sorry. to this stuff. Let me put letter A. Okay, error request cancelled. So JavaScript console gives us exactly this, the issue that the server name could not be resolved. So we are pointing to a wrong server. Let's change the port. And it's too big. Wait, let's put number 1. Okay, request cancelled. Same issue, could not be resolved. Could not be resolved because I have the wrong name here. Okay, error again. This one is different, so it means that he's able to reach the server, but he's not able to connect because the port is wrong. Okay, now everything looks good, but now the error comes say that, okay, forbidden. This is typically error. So it means that he is able to connect, but then we get a 403, forbidden error. So, and if you check our documentation that I also shared here, on the help portal, you have the solution manager integration guide. You will see that you need to add some credentials to the user that is used to connect to the manager. So if I go here and I check the credentials that the roles that these users have, I see that there is nothing here. So what I should look here for is to SAP Solution Manager, Admin, Display, and Edit. So these are the 3 roles that are mandatory for the user to connect to the Solution Manager, okay? After we add the roles to the user, we should not face any issue anymore importing the content. So we're connecting, then it should come a message showing us the solution available. So we just need to choose a solution, branch and scope, and then the process. Download the structure, yes, everything. And after that, we should be able, create filter, no. You should be able to see our solution manager configuration here, okay? Everything that is done during the process is here. So if I try, for example, to upload some content, you will see that the requests are being made here. Let me go, okay. Okay, I'm getting an error forbidding the upload, probably because I don't have authorization to do this type of document, but it's clear what is happening. So I'm not able to upload nothing. So JavaScript console should give you all the information that you need to check what is happening with the solution manager integration. Most recently, we faced a special issue that when downloading the solution manager, we were getting an issue with the JSON file. It's always breaking the integration. And we searched inside of the file and we found out this strange character. And this shard that is strange leads to error in the integration. So if you find this, you need to activate these options to avoid this. This is something that we faced a couple of times in the last times. Not sure why solution managers start putting this type of characters inside of it, but at least now we know what it is and how to fix it. Okay, and solution manager, this is it. Again, so key BAs, SAP notes, solution manager integration guide should be enough for you to get to the root cause of the issue that you are facing. Questions?
Super. Thank you, Renato. Any questions around this before we proceed with Thomas' part?
I just have one question left for the manager log files.
Mm-hmm.
Can a customer who's a cloud customer get access to their log files? So this could do their own troubleshooting?
No.
No.
Since operations is on our end, this is something that should actually be dealt internally. Yeah? So no chance to really subsequently check the issue, but that's operated by SAP, so that shouldn't be the case anyway. Yeah? That's our issue in any case.
Like for connection issues, connection timeouts, these kind of things.
Either front end, in that case the Java console would be the one to check, but back end wise, no chance. This is operations. All right, folks, thanks, Renato.
Welcome.
Forwarding to Mr. Pöhler, who is not in the call anymore, or he's the second me then. That might be the case.
Maybe.
Tom, are you the second Mike? Yeah, most likely.
Let me try to reach him on. Oh, he's not. Okay.
There we go. So it's Tom's screen already, I believe.
Hi, it's Thomas. Can you hear me?
Okay.
There we go. So he is the second me. It's not a split personality issue. It's just being me twice in there. However,
I must rejoin the Zoom session again. That's why renaming was not active anymore. Yeah, I hope you are fresh again, or still fresh. Last topics for today for this debugging session is again third party. I picked up SCORM. From Mike, I know that you have already a lot of SCORM training, and I will not to go too deep inside this SCORM topic, only how to debug. Let me share my slides, which I prepared for this one. Too many windows. Okay, I picked up one thing. It's very typical for SCORM. So we got the message, the incident, there is no final completion tracked. So all end user or the person who reported this issue said, yeah, we have done all, but it's not moving to the history list. It's still open. I must continue again. And yeah, something is wrong. I want to introduce in this session two methods of debugging this kind of stuff. The first one is, of course, the own debugging window, which we have in our playback settings. You can activate it. I will show you this. And the second one is how to debug with SuccessFactors Learning Self. There's also an option to activate this and use a developer tool to get the HTTP trace to see all this requests and the interaction with the backend from the LMS. Okay, let me start with the producer first. So I have it open already in the background on my other window. I move it now in the window that you can see it. Here's a typically SCORM course. I have some book pages. We have some simulations with a test, with a practice and a demo, and here at the end, the quiz mode inside. Yeah, that's the structure. And if we want to activate the debug mode because something it's wrong, you have to go to the playback settings, trainer global, and here you will find a debug mode. Yeah, I have it already active. For end users later on, it's not good to have it on because it's an additional window. You confuse the end users, but for debugging purpose, it's very helpful to see the structure and what we communicate with the LMS. So, okay, now it's active. I prepared this already, and let me jump in now in SuccessFactors to show you how it looks like. It was this one, then SCORM import. Now it's opening. you can see based on the buttons, it's a 2004. And now we can see the activated debug window. That is exactly this window here. Maybe I can explain shortly what we can see here. SCU means a scoreable SCORM object. That is, here you can very small read. It's a book page and you can see the book ID. The moment you can see progress is this one because I'm on the first page, and maximum it's 100 to reach this course. Then we can see the elements of this scoreable SCORM object. We have
just a little comment in between. You
Sure.
remember our SCORM detail session? This is what we talked about structure, and this is how to debug the structure actually. So if we go further down, either by link or by creating a corresponding manifest that is as deep, all the trackable objects, at least from the perspective and out of the thinking of us as a playback engine, are listed on the left-hand side. So this is the objects that it takes into consideration as SCOs.
Yes, thanks, Mike. So all the sub-objects inside the SCORM object you can see here. And often it's the case that you see more. In the moment we have a known issue that if you have a template used for your SCORM course, that maybe you have a master course and you inherit from this master course a new course. And this course, master course, has a linked test mode. You can also see this additional test mode from your master template, but it's not linked in your original course which you send to the LMS. And so the first one is what you can use with this debug window. Make a comparison. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements, and this have also corresponding, it must be corresponding with your structure here, yeah? We have one book, we have a demo mode, practice mode, and a test mode, 4 elements, that's fine. In this case, it's working. If you find in your debug window some more, then you have already find the root cause, then you must check where it's coming from. And the good thing is we have the UID, and then you can take a look in your project explorer and can search for this candidate which makes problems. Okay, short, if we go now through this window, we make some things, we watch a demo and so on. All this is tracked, yeah. If I go back to my window, I can see now the demo mode is active, yeah. I can see it here, and now it's passed, it's done, and here I can see now the change of the status is from complete false to true. So you have control. Same for the practice mode. I must do it now self here. Let's go back. It's called Übung. And now you can also see it's true and passed. And the same for the test at the end. Let's make it correct. It's also passed. Let's check the result here. We have this test mode, and it also now a complete true and passed true. And if you check now the container, let's say the parent of all this simple single SCORM object, it has also the complete true and the pass true. In this case, it was working, it's fine. In other case, you can see something is wrong and you can search what is wrong. Okay, that was a debug window. Let's assume that is still something wrong and you want debug the success factor self. Also here we have a bit control what we send and what we get. You can see that there are typically SCORM parameters which we send. That value means we send this to the backend. This one is, for instance, a bookmarking. So if you jump in twice after the second time again, you will go to your last page, which you was visited before. Yeah, and all this you can read here. If you need some more control, because okay, it could be it's from SAP Enable Now, maybe let's see what is the real traffic between the systems. Then it's good to go back to the SuccessFactors home page. I quit this course. And I go back to the structure. Now I can see we have a tick mark, it's working, it's fine. So what we want to do now is we want to activate the debug mode in SuccessFactors. It's a bit tricky.
The super trick.
Yeah, it's really, really great. As I saw the first time, I said, oh, how cool is it? Okay, you have to go to SuccessFactors to make sure that the focus is not nothing else, somewhere else. So if it's a focus set on the SuccessFactors logo, you put 5 times to your tab task on your keyword. 1, and you can see something it's happened here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you get this link, enable content debug.
But this only works if the wind blows from the east and you had a black cat visible at that day. Okay, otherwise yes. No chance.
Yeah, and Friday it must be, yeah. Okay, and you click on
the SAP SuccessFactors logo. Is that what you need to do?
Yes, yeah, it's not only the logo, it's an initial start to be sure that the focus is the header, and then you have to click 5 times to the tab. Yeah, it's written, I have it in a key, in the KBA explained. Okay, now you can see it's now switched from debugging mode off to on, and now you can close the window, it's prepared now. And we can start the course again. It's now in history list. Okay, it doesn't matter. We can use the other one. And if the course is starting, what we can use now, because it's a web application, a web session, we can activate F12, the debugging tool. More tools, developer tools. You can see now you have a dot, a big dot, it's in gray. And with the network recording, you can see all the details. I guess I must choose another one. It's not started yet. Let's use this one. And now I will put F12 again. Okay, should be enough. What I want to show to you is now the developer tool. Let me make it a bit bigger. And here you can see all requests and below the responses. And you can search for PVS, AEC, or servlet. It's 2 combinations. The one is responsible for RECC in SCORM 1.2, and the other one is for SCORM 2004. And then you will find exactly this communication between a backend from LMS and the content, the request and the response. I guess I did something wrong here. I don't know why the window is not showing here.
So
this one's
debugging isn't on, the there will be no details.
Yes, exactly. It's like a density which you activate. Normally also there's a request and a response, but the LMS will give some more details back, and this is good to debug. Yeah. All the things are written here in our documentation, in our knowledge base article. Let me open it for you. So we described on one side how to debug, activate the debug mode from Enable Now content side. And here was a tricky part with a click on the logo and 5 times with the tab task to activate the debug mode. And here you can see some details to read. And it's good, it's allowed for you. It's not, if you are not able to solve it, but you find you have a good log file, please forward it to our team so we can read it. And what we also need from you in this case would be if you can share the DKP file with the SCORM structure self that we have it. And yeah, if possible, also access to the LMS sometimes. Also, I guess not so often, but it could be also a configuration what is bad, then we can take a look in SuccessFactors. But often it's content related, and it's good if we have all to help you with it. Okay, any questions for the SCORM topic?
Keep in mind that another option, if you have a legacy LMS, which would not probably be SuccessFactors or whatever, that SCORM Cloud as a generic test environment is also an option. We mentioned that in our SCORM expert session a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just one question regarding the settings in SuccessFactors, because sometimes the client isn't really knowledgeable in SuccessFactors. It's a new solution, or the person doing the Enable Now content things, it's just next in SuccessFactors, and then we do everything on our end and do all the settings, and still something in SuccessFactors doesn't mark completed, or it doesn't trace it the way we want. Do we have any kind of best practice for SuccessFactors, even though this is not really our job, but just to make sure?
Yeah. Good point, Caroline. Yesterday I had a session with Sharon Radke. It's also from SuccessFactors, and we promised to make one document together, so with practices from both sides, that we share our knowledge and make one common document where all the stuff is inside, so that really all is inside to make sure that's running, that is a successful running and tracked course. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And what I'm working in the moment is really for each setting in our playback settings, make a corresponding a mapping to the parameter. What does it mean? Which SCORM object is it? Yeah, and which value we send. If you choose only progress, what does it mean? What we send for SCORM parameter to the LMS. Yeah.
Finally.
It makes more transparent also for third-party LMS. So often they have other things and expect other values, but then they know what we are sending, and then you can say, yeah, but here we need some other things, and then they can see what is possible. Yeah.
Cool. Right.
Okay, thanks for SCORM. So let's switch now to the next topic, if there's no other question. It's ARIS. It's relative new. Now we support, as you know, also the business process import from ARIS. And maybe here's one special thing to say. It's not a web application. We have the producer on one side, and on the other hand, we have the ARIS database. So, and it's indeed in each DPS traffic, but we can't use a developer tool. I want to use this debug session to explain a further tool which we are using in development support. It's Fiddler. I guess you know it already. I want to use a bit time also to introduce Fiddler and also how to prepare to use Fiddler on an effective way. Yes, so let me jump in. I go back first to the producer. I prepared here a folder for ARIS import. Let me show shortly how to demonstrate. Here we have this ARIS import. And now we want, we make a request to this database server from ARIS, and now we want match this traffic, we want capture this traffic. And now comes Fiddler into place.
Just one comment while Tom is booting Fiddler. Take care, guys. Fiddler, per default, is on basically any blacklist in any environment. Yeah? That's a forbidden tool for a common user. So if you want to really run it inside the environment of the customer, take care that you have a written conformance for that. Because this is a very aggressive tracker, and usually the network administrators won't like this to happen. So always get a written conformance for that.
Yes, that's a very good point. So it's really, you must involve the IT and ask for. Okay, as you can see, it's already starting the capturing. Let me put it out first. And all is tracked here. But before you can do it, you must prepare this Fiddler. Download is one thing. It's free of use. You must only give your name and the purpose, and you can say it's for web debugging, then it's fine. That's all. After downloading, you have to prepare the following. You go to Tools, Options. What we want to do at first, because each traffic is with HTTPS, and as you know, it's decrypted, and we want use and we want to read the traffic. That's why it's needed to say at first we want capture HTTPS connection, and we want to decrypt this traffic. So if that is activated, you need also a certificate. If it's not comes automatically, go to Actions and say Trust Root Certificate. And say yes, yes, yes. Now we are done with. I guess there's a further. Okay, that's it. Now we can say, okay, that is one thing what you have to prepare. And the further thing is WinConfig, this button. You have to say which processes you want capture. So click on this button. And you can see you need admin rights. It's not an easy thing that you can do it easily on a computer from your customer. So it's really, you have to ask for. And here you can filter. My experience is often you don't know which channel is used, so let all on or make all on. And if that is also given, so if you click here, exempt all, then you can close it. And now you are ready. One further comment for this yellow bar. And the moment I'm using F5, the bridge from SAP, because I'm working in home office, and every time it's a security thing that I get a new IP from the proxy. That's why I must click from time to time on the yellow bar to proceed with the capturing. If I close my F5, my bridge, then it's working like now. Okay. So let me proceed with the ARIS import here. Now I choose, we have different databases here, and we can use a development database. Okay. Maybe I stop here, should be enough. It's only to demonstrate how it works. So we have here, for instance, an ARIS. And if you make a double click, you open it. And here you can see on the top frame the request, and here below it's a response. What we are sending with ARIS, there are JSON files. That's why it's good to use JSON in the tab. And here it's good to see the headers, because we can see the request which we're asking for. As you know, I make a decision. I say, give me the database from a development stage, and now I get items, the JSON items, and I can see each of these models which comes now. Yeah, and often is the case with ARIS that the customer said, oh, this model, I can't find it, and so you can check the JSON file if you can see it or not. If that is too much to you, but you was able to convince the IT admin to use Fiddler and to create a such kind of file for us, then it's also good if you forward this ticket to us or create a ticket for us, give us this file, and we will take a look. Yeah, we can. There's an option to save this file. Save. You say all sessions, and you can see that this extension as a sit, and yeah, you can put it on a share or send it in a ticket to us, and we can take a look. I guess incident allowed this extension to transfer, so it's no barrier. Okay, back to the sheet here, to the slide. Yeah, all these points are together here again. Decrypt, bin config, and also save the trace. And here I put again hand over to development support, what we need. I guess it's very important to point from time to time to diagnose text. Also in this case, it's good to give us a diagnosed text file. Why? Let me close first this one. Here in a diagnose file, we get all the environment from a client. Yeah, it's not needed to ask all the things. We get the version which is using, we get the environment, the operation system. It's a restricted user. Citrix is involved or not. We can see which DLL is used. Is a Java access bridge is on or not, enabled or not. And we can also see which other executables are running at the same time. And if the op tracker and the watchdog is active, we can also see some deeper informations. So it's very, very useful for us. So don't forget to send it to us. Next one is this trace. Here in this case, the Fiddler file, or it could be also from HDD watch what you have. And if possible, it's also good to open ARIS for us, that we get the connection and we can try to reproduce. Sometimes we need also our developments that they take a look together with us to debug with the producer. Okay, any questions to the ARIS part? And Fiddler.
The half file we only get from the regular F12.
Yes,
right?
yes, sure.
And that would be from the ARIS interface then?
No, it's not only if, yeah, let's use only as this Fiddler file here in this case. I had in mind if you have other tools like HDD Watch or there's also Wireshark, you can also use this one. If the customer said, okay, we don't have Fiddler, but we have another tool, you can also share this information to us. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I prepared one goodie for you at the end because you was very patient to see and watch all the stuff. It was Magna's. She prepared. We had the idea that we put all this. We have a lot of error messages, yeah, and not all are really speaking to you. We have server response code 400 or unique constraint violated and so on. I guess you know it. And what we have done, we prepared one knowledge base article where we put all these known issues together, where we know, okay, this one is a clear indicator for this issue, and we have a solution for it. So let's take a look together in this subnote here, in the KVA knowledge base article. So here you can take a look if you have some error like this. Yeah, you can on the left side see all the strings where indicates you to this error, and on the right side you can see the solution. This document is living, so each new error message is what we get, and where we say, okay, it's a typically thing, and we know the solution already, we will put inside this document.
Super cool.
Yeah, and often we make also a Jira entry to our developers, please, in the next release, take care that we get some better error messages, that it's speaking to us and not this crypted things. Okay, so that's from my side.
Brilliant. Any questions to the concrete topic, or just opening the lines for general questions, because that was the last session actually? Carolyn already shot her bullets.
Well, we discussed that with Mike in one of the last sessions when he was announcing that we would have this support session. Like, it's always interesting to know what's currently going on in support, like known issues, known errors, like the one that you showed with the secure channel for LDAP S, which is not working at the moment. So it would be great to have like a top 10 support issues at the moment, like wires running hot because of this and that, and so
yeah,
be more proactive maybe.
Yes, what we definitely are using is a GEM group for this implementation consulting group, and support, as you know, has an own channel, and if we have known issues, we ASAP post this into this folders in this thread. And there is, for our customers, we have also a channel, it's called Hot News, or there's the format subnode, but there's a further additional format, Hot News, for this kind of, maybe you remember the time as we made a release, 1905, and the links were not working anymore. Yeah. And we instantly use this kind of hot news to reach all customers. And what we also are using is our chatbot, Johnny. So for known issues, you can ask him, give me known issues in a moment, and then you get also this information and the list of known issues. I hope that's good, and otherwise you can ask also, yeah. Is that answers your question, Caroline?
Well, I think it's just my curiosity to kind of like, we have these issues going on at the moment, and maybe it's just by neglect that the consultant wasn't mentioning, like this thing with the certificate, that of course when the certificate runs out or you change the certificate, then you need to update it. But I never mentioned that to any of my customers. But if I knew, hey, this is an issue at the moment we're running into, I would not forget it the next time, for example. So this feedback loop, I think, would be great. So we can, you know, have our list of things that we know we definitely have to tell the client.
Yeah, sure. Now, with the certificate is maybe a topic because it's often on the IDP side that we don't know. It's randomly and from customer to customer different. But anyway, what we can do, or what we started in the past already, was that if you have a session with Mike, this regular sessions, that one of our support members can be a part, or that support is available also in this course and this team meeting. And then we can say, okay, we in the moment we have this issue, please take care, or maybe you can post some questions. So if you say I'm struggling with it, and then maybe we can use shortly to discuss the next steps, what is to do in this case.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. We can discuss it later. That we plan it again. I guess it was already a topic between us. So thanks, Caroline.
Anything further, folks? No more questions. All right. So in that case, support team, thank you very, very much taking over today. I believe this was a very helpful session. And we call it a day. Thanks a lot again for your attendance. Thanks a lot to the speakers.
You're welcome.
And yeah, keep in touch. Happy enabling. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.